What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is the sci-fi thriller film The Cloverfield Paradox. This one sprung up on us out of nowhere, but hey, I'm not complaining. Alright, so The Cloverfield Paradox takes place in outer space, where a crew attempts to access a means of unlimited energy that can help the people on Earth that are beginning to starve and face the brink of nuclear war. In a desperate attempt to save Earth from extinction, the crew of the Cloverfield attempt to harness this energy from space while they encounter a number of strange occurrences along the way. Alright, man do I have a lot to say about this movie. But let me just start by saying this is another one of those films that you have to tread super lightly when you talk about, because there's definitely a lot that I could say in this review that could easily spoil the movie for you. So bear with me when I go into these topics. I'm not going to go super far in depth because I got to watch the spoiler landmine, so to speak, and I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But let me just say right off the bat that I loved it. And there's a lot of reasons I love this movie, and I'm going to lay out all those reasons for you guys in this video the best I can. But I will say that I don't think I've ever been so baffled by the critical response to a film, maybe ever, as I have been with this one. As of me recording this video, The Cloverfield Paradox sits at a measly 16% on the tomato meter. This baffles me, and I'm just not sure I watched the same movie. I feel like Mugatu from Zoolander when he says he feels like he's taking crazy pills. That's kind of where my mind's at right now. Because I was captivated by this film from start to finish. But I'm openly a very big fan of the original Cloverfield movie, and I like 10 Cloverfield Lane a lot as well, and I think that definitely helped a lot. I think being a fan of the Cloverfield films is sort of like a prerequisite, I would say, because I think a large part of what makes this specific movie enjoyable is trying to figure out how it all connects. So yes, I highly recommend you watch Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane before you watch this one, and if you like those two a lot, then I think you'll like this one as well. But a big question you need to ask yourself is how comfortable are you with ambiguity? A big reason I think people are hating the Cloverfield Paradox is because it doesn't get much more ambiguous than this. The film feels like it kind of goes out of its way to not answer any major questions for you. Instead, it leaves a ton of clues and breadcrumbs along the way that are intended for you, the detective so to speak, to piece together to form the larger whole. Albeit a different type of film, I think whether you enjoyed It Comes at Night, another extremely polarizing film, will be pretty indicative as to whether you'll like Cloverfield Paradox or not. Both of these movies are intentionally ambiguous, and their goal isn't to spoon-feed you answers, but rather for you to draw your own conclusions from limited information. Based on the interactions I've had with you guys, I think this is a movie you'll enjoy. I found it very similar to films like Triangle and more recently Coherence, films that ask the viewer to engage themselves in the experience in a more active and less passive way. I can tell you that you are not going to get clear-cut answers watching this film. You're just not, and that's something you should recognize about yourself and your personal taste before watching it. Because if you're going in expecting this straightforward, stuck-in-space thriller, you're going to be disappointed. It's similar to those type of movies, it's similar to films like Life, for example, but it's different in terms of the bigger picture, and that's going to be very polarizing, as you're already seeing. There are certainly elements that feel like your generic, stuck-in-space horror thriller type movie, but I think where the Cloverfield Paradox breaks off is in the bigger picture, like I mentioned. There's just so much to be analyzed in this movie, from every detail to every little reveal along the way. And I think whether you find enjoyment in the film or not heavily depends upon how much you're looking to get out of it. If you're just looking for passive entertainment, don't watch The Cloverfield Paradox. I would say the same about Triangle and movies like Coherence, like I mentioned. These are movies that require a ton of thought throughout and even after the credits roll. Part of what I love about movies like these is how they bring people together. You can already go on Reddit and start reading theories people have come up with to try to explain not only this specific installment, but how it connects to the larger Cloverfield universe. These highly ambiguous movies don't allow for surface level reads. They don't really exist, and that'll be something you either love or you hate. But the nature of the story isn't the only thing that Cloverfield Paradox has going for it. The cast is excellent. I mean, you have three very strong actors here in David Oyelowo, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, and Daniel Brühl. I thought everyone was very strong here, but those three were particularly great. I think as the protagonist, Gugu Mbatha-Raw impressed me the most. I found her work to be excellent in this film, and sort of similar in a way to the work of Mary Elizabeth Winstead in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Generally, the characters are different, yes, but I found them to be conflicted in similar ways and driven by the same motivating factors. I won't get into that now because, spoiler territory, but generally, yeah, Gugu Mbatha-Raw was awesome. Let me also say that the ending is freaking awesome. I got complete chills during this because I thought the movie just ended in the best way possible. I feel like it's consistent, because it leaves you with a lot of questions, more questions than answers, and that's sort of how the entire experience is intended to be received. If you look back at Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, it was nothing different really. All the Cloverfield films end with a bang, but also super ambiguously, and that's how the films are generally intended to be received. Like I said, you either like that or you don't. Hell, you may even hate it, and that's fine too. Now, one criticism I do understand is that the film can tend to get a little too predictable and too formulaic in certain spots. There's things that happen on the ship that are pretty similar, I'd say, to a lot of stuck-in-space horror thrillers, like Life, for example, like I mentioned, all of which you've seen before, and you've seen this a lot of times. I do consider that a con, because generally I feel like the Cloverfield Paradox tries to be different and something new, but it can occasionally fall back into the genre tropes every so often. But in my opinion, I think this film illustrates that there's a fundamental disconnect in how people interpret these types of films. On one side, you have the viewers who view this writing style as lazy, a writing style that intentionally leaves questions the script itself poses unanswered. And on the other side, you have people like myself who view it as clever, and as a technique used to engage viewers long-term with your story and have them play detective with it long after the credits roll. To me, that's exactly how all three of the Clover films are crafted and how they operate, and it's exactly why the Cloverfield universe has a pretty engaged and dedicated fan base. It's because the movies are ambiguous, and they're mysteriously connected in ways that aren't yet fully clear. That gets people excited, because it gets them engaged, and that's why I love these films. As for the pros cons, I thought the film had an excellently ambiguous story, awesome acting from the cast, a fantastic ending, and stellar universe building. As for the cons, I think it can tend to fall into the trapped in space tropes every so often, but that's honestly it. I'm going to give the Cloverfield Paradox a 9 out of 10, and definitely recommend you check this one out on Netflix if you enjoy sci-fi thriller films. I do, however, believe you should watch the other Cloverfield movies first, and make sure you enjoy them, because that's a big factor at play here. So did you guys watch the Cloverfield Paradox yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite Cloverfield film. Still the original Cloverfield for me. I'm a sucker for Clover himself. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.